The VHV scaling strategy. This is all about scaling slow and fast and using what we've learned about V scaling and H scaling and using them in unison to be able to scale predictably and also to be able to do it at speed and at scale as well. So using vertical, horizontal together, this is my preferred method of scaling any kind of account, whether it's e-commerce, lead gen, digital product, whatever it be. What I'm doing is using vertical scaling to start off the ad set. And what I'm doing is testing to see whether there is scalability built into this ad set. I'm looking at consistency of results. So using the 20% incrementals on the verticals scaling strategy for an ad set, I want to have confidence that given day-on-day increase at 20%, there is still scope to improve the budget and get some results as well. What I'm then doing is taking the winning ad set and making a duplicate of that winning ad set to scale sideways. So let's say by this point, I'm spending $500 on my ad set and I've brought it up to that level. I will then duplicate it and then make further duplicates of that as well. So with one of my duplicates, there'll be no change. So these are side-by-side duplicates. I will then make one change per duplicate beyond that as well. So one change could be a manual bid, it could be creative changes, it could be placements that cut out of the original, it could be devices that are cut as well. And then what I'm doing is once I find a winner here, I'm again using the vertical scaling to continue scaling that up. So at this point, once I've made a duplicate of my original winning ad set, I no longer increase the budget there, so that might stay at $500. And let's say for sake of argument, our winning ad set is also on $500, but it's doing really well. And so there again, I would go into vertical scaling there. And to kind of illustrate how that might look, so let's say we have our vertical scaling ad set. Over 5 to 7 days, I've seen good, consistent results. There may be a few dips, but overall, there's good performance. I'm going to park that and keep that running at the same budget at that point, but I'm also duplicating it to effectively double the budget. I'm confident now I have a good audience, good creative, ensuring that I have scope to grow. And scope to grow means the audience size is still fairly quite large, and I believe I can grow into it. I'm getting good results. The pixel is giving me good data back. And now I'm going to duplicate the ad set here, but then also put duplicates in with max bid. So I know that a lot of people are put off by manual bidding. I want to be able to use manual bid here to be able to scale up confidently and push more budget in and know that I can outbid other people in the auction. And as part of the manual bid module, you'll understand how the auction reacts to manual bidding as well. Generally, what I'm doing when I'm setting up a manual bid is to go for a max manual bid, or now as it's called, the lowest cost bid, 3 times my target cost per acquisition, 2 times, and also the same cost per acquisition. So let's say, for sake of argument, my cost per acquisition target is $30. I will set one ad set at 90, one at 60, one at 30 generally. Sometimes I may go in between that as well to try and test different boundaries. So by this point, I've got 3, maybe 4 additional duplicates. And if things are going well, then I'll go back into vertical scaling there as well. If not, then I'll let the budgets run out, but then also know when to cut that budget as well. So if I have an ad set and I know generally by, let's say, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I should have generated X sales, my ROAS should have been this. If I'm not seeing this from any of my ad sets, pause them. Give them a chance tomorrow to restart and try them again, but don't waste money if you don't have confidence that the ad set has the capability to grow. So once we've done the vertical, we've done the horizontal, we've done the vertical, again, you can go back into the same format as well. So now let's say we have our winning ad set of the vertical. We have confidence it's working again. So using the previous example, let's say we have a max bid, 3x the max bid, and we know it's working well. At this stage, think about another horizontal scaling opportunity. So it could be splitting out placements, it could be splitting out device, it could just simply be duplicating exactly the same ad set again and switching up the creative. This is something which is often missed out, which is when you are making a duplicate of the original, it's a great opportunity to test creative. So let's say our winning ad set, one or two ads are performing really well. Make a duplicate of that and test some very different ads using the graduation strategy and our creative fishing strategy. For the ads that you know have already been tested in page post engagement, bring them in and push them into horizontal scaling. You could easily have 5 duplicate ad sets with 5 different, very different ads running, and they're attracting different parts of your audience in to convert as well. So again, using vertical, horizontal, vertical, you're progressing and growing your ad sets in cutting them up in different ways as well. And again, you can take that further. So once you've, let's say, for example, split out Instagram and $90 max bid, and that's going really well, you might want to duplicate that again and duplicate that again. And so it gives you an opportunity to really increase your velocity of spending quite quickly as well. You might not even need to. By this stage, you might be spending $2,500 a day, and you're comfortable at that level. And let's say, for example, you want to make sure your back end is still coping, so that sales are still ticking over, everything's still going well. Then leave it running. You don't have to increase your budgets. You don't have to duplicate sideways, but the opportunity is there if you want to do so. So taking an example from kind of top to bottom, we take our winning ad set, we're incrementing it based on the vertical scaling strategy to give us confidence that there is the ability to scale further. If we then make a duplicate, we no longer touch that original budget, so that becomes our insurance policy. We're now making duplicates of it and pushing our risk into those areas. Whichever ad sets, including the original, are not performing by that point, we pause them out and potentially restart them the next day. The ones that are working, you again apply the incremental budget increases with vertical scaling. And then again, if you have another winning ad set, move it back into H scaling. So you want to split that out by something else. It could just be a straight copy with different creatives. You then start testing that out. Give yourself 5 to 7 days of testing to ensure that you have confidence in those results, and potentially make additional duplicates off of the back of that. So really, this is the core strategy I use for scaling, but it's important to know that you need to have the other parts in place as well. Common reasons why this won't work. So if you haven't proven your creatives and you throw brand new creatives into this, there's a chance it could go wrong. And sometimes you don't know whether it's the duplicate or you've spent too much budget, or whether it's the creative itself. And this is why I like to test my creatives in a page post engagement campaign to qualify it against the same audience, to know that the creative is good, and then bring it into this strategy. Another reason why this might not work is when you start to duplicate ad sets, going back to the strategy of how audiences are set up and how the kind of analogy sits of oceans, boats, and hooks. If you are now putting into your big ocean more and more boats that are targeting the same customers, there may be a chance that your ad sets start to clash with each other. Whilst you won't be paying more in the auction as long as it's in the same account, there is a good chance that some of these ad sets will start to reduce in their reach. Now, to give you an example, if you've duplicated max bid and you've got the 1, 2, 3x max bids running, it may be the case that some of those max bids are going to clash against each other. And the key thing to keep an eye on is delivery insights, and we'll cover that off in the delivery insights module, so that you're making sure that generally there's no more than a 30% overlap across your ad sets as well. The other potential reason why this might not work is audience size as well. The more you start to cut up your audiences, the less effective your website conversion campaign will be, because website conversion campaigns work best with large audiences. So as you start to cut those audiences out, and let's say you go down the Instagram route, mobile only, $90 CPA, and whatever else layered on top of it, you may get an audience which isn't too big, and you're going to saturate that really quickly. You're going to overreach them, and that ad set might expire out a lot quicker. So do think about audience sizes when you're cutting up your ad sets. The other thing about the duplicates as you create them is to not feel attached to any particular one. So just because your winning ad set up here was the one that started it all off, it doesn't matter if it stops performing. Pause it, give it a go in a few days' time. The auction's always changing, and results and performance will also change alongside that as well. So This is something which, as a strategy, I would use once I have confidence in the audience, that I know it's a really good audience. I would probably do more horizontal scaling if I know that there's more reach within the audience as well. I absolutely want to make sure the creatives I'm using here are sound and are qualified before coming in. And also, I'm not going to go wild on horizontal scaling as wide as you can go, because I still prefer, for website conversion as an objective, to work with bigger audiences. This also has worked for me within mobile app installs, lead generation, etc. And it's really about scaling, but keeping an eye on your key metrics. So as we've discussed before with vertical and horizontal scaling, keep an eye on your CPA, your return on ad spend, but also the sub-metrics of click-through rate and CPC. And as you're scaling out, keep a close eye on how those are responding against each other as well, and cut your losses earlier rather than later.